I have with me Badewonu Teju. Did I get that right?
Oh yes, in that exact order. It is Badewonu Teju. It's not Teju first, as most people would assume. Badewonu is actually my first name.
Okay, so I was looking at I was reading your Wikipedia entry this morning, and I saw stand-up comedian, writer, talk show host. I didn't see actor. What happened? They didn't include actor in your Wikipedia entry.
Well, you know how these Wikipedia things are. You do that thing years ago, and then you promise yourself you'll go back and edit it at some point, and then you never do, and all of that. So yeah, we probably, this is a reminder that we should go back and edit that thing.
Okay, so for those who are just encountering you now, what they know is Deep Dive podcast with Teju, right? Deep Dive podcast.
Yeah, that, I mean.
Okay, so may I add podcaster to your entry now?
Well, ẹ̀yin àgbà náà lẹ́bọ aṣọ ìgbà yín là ń dá fúngbà. So it is we're in the era of podcasting. I mean, when you consider that Trevor Noah, with all the machinery of the Daily Show behind him, he left that to go and start a podcast. We're in that era now, so that even if I was still in Nigeria and I had the Teju Babyface show, there's a degree to which I would have been greatly conflicted right now, that whether the best move was not to stop that and then go do a podcast. So yeah, I guess you can add podcaster, but in the end, it's just a talk show that goes to market faster. That's all a podcast is. It's a talk show that goes to the market. It's a product whose turnover time is faster than the traditional talk show. So I'll take it.
So now tell me about the transition from Teju Babyface show to Deep Dive.
Yeah, so first of all, let's establish the well, not the parameter. Let's establish how this interview came to be. I have not easily granted interviews. I am not easily granted interviews. So let's just establish that this is because of Almighty. Okay, I have turned down more interviews than I can count. But when Mighty calls you, you show up for Mighty. So I just want us to establish that for people to know who Mighty is, just in case they don't know. As the name, so the man is. It's Almighty. Let's just know that. Okay, so to answer your question, it was I didn't plan it that way. I was just taking a break when I was coming to the United States initially. I felt that so the Teju Babyface show was so much to do at every point in time, just so much work, and I thought that I definitely needed a break. So this was me coming to the States for anything from between 6 months to 1 year, just to chill and reset. I do that every once in a couple of years, which is how my transitions have always been. That is how I stopped being an actor and became a comedian. It was how I went from just being a comedian to the Teju Babyface show. So I was going through one of those ablutions of the soul that I take regularly. Only that I did not know that COVID was going to come and extend that trip by another year. So it was at the end of that year that, as you know, everything had changed. Online had become more prominent than it ever was. It was not just something that we did on the side. Online had now become the thing. And so with all of that in mind, seeing the awesome things that boys were doing out of Nigeria, boys had arisen with the internet. I mean, they had essentially killed television, which was my forte. I mean, these boys had essentially killed TV. And so where people like us would have been running around trying to get our show on this TV station, and then you will run to Ibadan, try to get on a TV station in Ibadan, then you run to Abeokuta, and then we'd feel cool and feel like we were nationwide. These boys were sitting in Lagos, using their phones, uploading on the internet, and they were reaching the whole world. So I'm like, So we have to rethink this thing. And so I went through a long period, and it wasn't easy. When you do a show like that, when you do a big show like that, your tendency is to think that it will be a step down and that the world would judge you if you came from the big show to what was essentially, or what is essentially, a small show. Just an interview with one person. What happened to the audience and the band and the lights and the big set and all of that thing that made you feel very cool? You're not going to stop all that and come and do this small thing. So it wasn't easy for me, I must confess, for you. But eventually, it was either do that or not do anything. Because just when I was planning again to come back and start doing the big thing, then our third baby was on the way. So again, that wasn't going to work. So I'm like, okay, I should do this thing. So that's how the podcast just started. It was, you know what, at the very least, let me start doing this thing. And then when the baby is born, in fact, I did go to Nigeria. I did go to Nigeria to go and do the show. I told my wife, look, I can't be waiting. I've been waiting all these years to go back. I can't now wait again till the baby comes to term, and then you give birth, and then I wait for how long. So I'm going. So I did go. I went for about 2 weeks. And it occurred to me that what it was going to take for us to get the show back, it just wasn't, it was like, it wasn't necessary. You don't need to put in this amount of work to get the same level of output or even to get greater output. It's not just necessary. If I was going to do the show the way we're doing it, I was doing it purely for ego. And once I came to that decision, then the podcast was, it was a no-brainer.
One of the things I've learned from you, Teju, is that one has to kill one part of one's life or what one is doing to actually move on to the next level. So ordinarily for you, I wouldn't expect that moving from one stage to the other would be something that will be a life or death thing. But those around you, how easy was them to now see you, Teju Babyface the Teju Babyface show to what you are doing right now? Did people accept it immediately?
Yes, so that's the thing. First of all, it was hard for me to kill this one because the last time I tried to kill something to walk into something, it didn't exactly work out. So I've had no problems, as you rightfully alluded. I've had no problems killing stuff to go do stuff because it always works. When I kill something and go do the next thing, it works immediately. So what I tried to do initially was to kill the Teju Babyface show and go and do thought leadership, which was why I wrote the books that I wrote. I was going to be done with entertainment. I had no problems giving up the Teju Babyface show initially, and I was going to become an inspirational speaker, a motivational speaker. I was going to transition into that. But that did now not work with the alacrity or the speed with which all my other things had worked out. And that caused me to pause. It caused me to pause for a long time. In fact, if I'd gone through any challenges in my career, it was in the bid to make sure that that part worked, that I became a thought leader. I kept pushing that thing, but that thing wasn't exactly, I mean, it was working, but it wasn't working on the same level that entertainment was working. So I had to recalibrate. I mean, those who follow me a lot will be able to track the journey. There was a time when I stopped the Teju Babyface show briefly from 2014 to 2016. And so that was that period. So when it wasn't working, that was when I went back to now do the show again. So I was now, at that point, I had concluded that that whole thought leadership thing was at the very best just going to be an accompaniment to the Teju Babyface show, right? I didn't think it could stand alone. I knew I had to do it, but I didn't think I should kill the Teju Babyface show anymore. So now that it was the podcast time, you can understand that I had tried to kill this show before and it didn't work. And there are no answers. There's nobody in life to give you answers, especially when you're a successful person. Nobody can tell you exactly what to do. So I'm in this funk of mind where, was I born to do the Teju Babyface show? Is that my thing? Is that my calling? Am I running away from it? Is it that everything I had done up until that point was to bring me to that point? And having gotten to that point, I was supposed to stay with that thing. Sikiru Ayinde Barrister would say in many ways, in his many songs, that he thanked God that he found out what he was supposed to do with his life early, which was music, that he had also been mistaken earlier on and he had gone to join the army, but that he was thankful to God that he found people who quickly told him that the military was not his destiny and that music was, so that he now switched into music and he found it early and that he spent all his life pursuing that. So that was my thing. What if I was wrong? What if the Teju Babyface show was my thing? Maybe that's why the thought leadership was difficult. So now that I come to this point again, when I was considering killing it again or stopping it or pausing it to now go and do the podcast, what if it doesn't work? Because, I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? So why would I now kill it? Which is why I'm thankful for the whole American trip being stuck here because of COVID. Because between you and I, the only way that I was able to walk into that podcast was because I didn't have any other choice at the time. It's almost sure that if I was in Nigeria where I could still do the Teju Babyface show, you probably would not have heard of this podcast. Never. So, as to answer your question, how did those around me feel about it? That's the beauty of wanting to kill one level for another. If you're going to kill one level, especially a level on which you've been very successful, for the next level, you have to take time off. You cannot go from that to this immediately. It is not possible. Thus, the great teacher said that we do not pour new wine into old wineskins. It will burst. People will just refuse to accept you on your new level, which, by the way, is why my thought leadership did not work as much as I wanted it to work initially. It was because I was trying to step in immediately. You don't do that. The people will resist you. The only way they will accept you is if you take time away. When you take time away, they miss you so much because what they are actually attracted to in you in the first place is not the expression of your talent, which is what the talk show is, which is what the comedy is, which is what the MCing is, which is what the acting is, which is what the podcasting is. It is just what you're attracted to is the essence of me, not all those expressions. But people don't know that. So when you take time away, you give them time to miss you, so that when you return, in whatever form you return, they are just too glad to have you back. Then they will accept you. They have missed you so much that however you come, they are longing for your essence, so they will accept you, which is why I believe with all humility that as soon as we came out with the podcast, from the first episode, they accepted it. They had missed me. They had missed my essence. So it was like, look, anyhow you bring it, we will take it. So that's what happened.
Now, so let us walk back a bit. Now, explain to me again, explain to me like somebody who doesn't know how you ended up in the US.
Okay, so it's several things that all work together. I had several reasons. First of all, I needed to get my family out.